What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the second video in my series where we conquer all of the staff ghosts. In part 2, we're going to show you how to beat all the retro track staff ghosts on 150cc without using any mushrooms or advanced strategies. Just clean driving and tight lines. Retro tracks here refers to all of the non-DLC tracks that have shown up in previous iterations of the Mario Kart franchise, and that includes all of Shell Cup, Banana Cup, Leaf Cup, and Lightning Cup. Just want to reiterate that the point of these videos is not to show off or make some claim to being a Mario Kart uberlord, but to provide a more casual-friendly resource for every track in the game for those of you who'd like to get a sense of how each track is supposed to be played without needing to wait for a fully fleshed out tutorial. We're gonna kick things off with Wii Moo Moo Meadows and finish up with N64 Rainbow Road. Hope you enjoy. Wii Moo Moo Meadows is basically just a big circle. Similar to Mario Kart Stadium, we're going to grab most of the coins on lap 1 and grab the rest on lap 2. Start your first drift from the inside and then immediately start holding right on your joystick to widen your drift angle and grab the 3 coins on the outside of the turn. On lap 2, we're going to stick with the inside of the turn to grab the last 2 coins. Just like in the last video, the theme of these runs is take your lines as tightly as possible. To do that, you want to release your mini turbos quickly and stay as close to the inside of the turns as possible. For this track, if you're using mushrooms, the big grass patch after the cow section is where you want to use them. Additionally, for this track, make sure that you're taking the center boost ramp and hitting as many of the molehill tricks as possible. That's it for this track. I will catch you guys in Mario Circuit. The Game Boy Advance version of Mario Circuit is a pretty straightforward course. Grab all the coins that I grab on lap 1 and then just spend as much time as you can on top of the red and white dividers, just like Mario Kart Stadium. There are a couple circumstances on this course where you have to do a right drift immediately followed by a left drift, or vice versa. If you find yourself being flung into the center of the course for these turns, then the problem is likely that you're not building and releasing your mini turbos quickly enough, which means that you're not giving yourself enough time to start the next drift. Pay close attention to when I release my mini turbos and when I start all of my drifts. On this course, there's actually quite a few places that you can use mushrooms to save time, but the best spot is probably at the end of the lap on the last turn. You can actually take that shortcut without using a mushroom at all, but it can be a little bit annoying to learn. Not much to mention other than that though, so I will see you all in Cheep Cheep Beach. For Cheep Cheep Beach, the main piece of advice is basically just to watch what I do and try to replicate it as closely as you can. After the orange boost ramp, you basically want to just go straight into the water, meaning do not follow the little sandbar because that's a crazy slow path to take. The problem is that there are these damned crabs that, despite only moving back and forth, can be a bit unpredictable in terms of where they're going to be located on every lap. You kind of just have to experiment to figure out how to navigate this section of the track, but if you're trying to play it safe, just assume that you're going to have to swing a bit outside to the left to avoid those crabs. If you're using mushrooms, use them to get through the mud at the end of the lap. That's it for this course though, catch you guys in Toad's Turdpike. For Toad's Turdpike, you basically want to be taking the turns as close to the inside as possible, but the problem is that if your drifting isn't really on point, it's pretty likely that you're going to run into a wall. If you're finding that this is a big problem for you, then just take the turns slightly wider. The first 4 coins that you're going to want to grab are at the start of the first super long straightaway. The next 4 will be at the start of lap 2. And other than that, you can kind of just grab whatever 2 coins are easy enough for you to grab while you're playing the rest of the course. Again, take the turns as tight as you can, but in reality, you really don't need to play this course that optimally to beat the staff coast here. But that's all I gotta say about this terrible course. After you're done here, we're gonna move on to another terrible course. Okay, so Dry Dry Desert isn't really that bad on 150cc, just as long as you're not actually racing other people. As always, take those inside lines as much as you can. For the first turn, after starting your right drift, you'll have to start holding left to widen your drift angle to grab the 3 coins. After that, it's just a right drift, right drift, and then a long right drift to finish up the first part of the track. At the split paths, go right to grab the 4 coins, and then start a right drift and again hold left on the joystick to widen your drift angle. Now the reason that this works is because the sand is so slippery, and actually if you have Streetle or Landship unlocked, then you should probably use those instead of Standard Bike for this course since it's got way better traction. Finally, when going into the Oasis, you want to go just left of center of the first big hill since that's going to allow you to actually get 2 tricks off the island. The end of the lap is where you want to use your mushrooms if you have them, but other than that, we're on to Donut Plains 3. Man, this is the third track in a row from my bottom 10 that you guys are making me play. You guys better appreciate all this. In reality, there's really not that much to say about Donut Plains 3. After going into the water from the second bridge, you can actually do a pretty nifty shortcut, but if you don't do it correctly, then you're going to end up flying into the off-road somewhere and losing a lot of time. So I show you how to do the intended path on laps 1 and 2, and then how to do the shortcut on lap 3. The waterlogged portion of track at the end of the lap is very slippery, so, and I know that I harp on this a lot, but take those inside lines as tightly as you can because the last couple of turns have normal, non-slippery track for you to take. But that's it for Donut Plains 3, we'll see you all in Royal Raceway. Alright, finally back to a good course. And really, aside from telling you, watch my lines, there's not much to say about it. After the glider section, make sure to try and land on the track as quickly as you can so that you can start drifting around the turn. If using mushrooms, you want to use them right after the glider section, by the way, but that's pretty much it. See you guys in DK Jungle. Well, back to the tracks, and yes, I just called out DK Jungle, don't at me. For DK Jungle, go left at the first fork since it's faster and it allows you to trick off of the tree stump. After coming off the bridge, there's a little glider that you'll see off to your left. It's not technically a shortcut, but I'm considering it advanced enough that I avoid it on lap 1 and just show you how to take it on laps 2 and 3. Really though, you ought to learn how to do it because if you don't, you'll have to deal with some annoying frogs on the intended path. At the end of the lap, there's another split path where you can go over a little gap on the left. This isn't that tricky to learn, and it saves so much time that there's really no reason not to learn it. Keeping with the theme of retro tracks being kind of sucky, we're on to Wario Stadium. I'm going to be honest with you here, you're probably going to want to use mushrooms on this course since the non-advanced run that I use only beats the Staff Ghost by like a second and a half or so. And using a mushroom through the off-road at the end of the track should help you build in a nice little buffer. Other than that though, I really can't say too much about the course, just follow the lines that I take on this track and then we'll be moving on to Sherbet Land. Sherbet Land is a pretty fun course actually. You spend a lot of time alternating between left and right drifts, so as always, make sure to release those mini turbos as quickly as you can because it'll help you take super tight lines. Just before going into the underwater, it's actually possible to trick off of the edge of the track, but the timing is a bit tricky. I do actually try and go for it on all 3 laps, but I really only hit it on lap 3. After going into the water, I tend to hang out on the left side of the track and then mini turbo around the last little ice pillar. Rinse and repeat all that stuff for laps 2 and 3 and we'll be moving on to Music Park. Missing coins in Music Park can be really frustrating if you're trying to optimize this course, but fortunately we're only trying to beat the Staff Ghost here, and as you'll see at the end of the track, we've got more than enough time to do so. For the first left turn, it's really wide, so you can neutral drift with minor corrections for most of it to build up an ultra mini turbo. When coming onto the two Piranha Plant portion of the track, make sure to stay out of the lights on the ground because that's where you're going to get got. For the music note section, it's faster not to go off the glider, and instead trick off of the ramp that's not lit up. Every time the music notes pound the ground, you get tossed up in the air a little bit, and while in mid-air, you can actually press the drift button to get a trick. If you take a super wide line on the last right turn, you can actually trick off of the drum and then use a mushroom to go through the grass. I try and show you how to do this on lap 2, but I kinda mess it up a bit because I'm specifically not using mushrooms for these runs. Alright, that's it for Music Park. Yoshi Valley next. There's not that much to say about Yoshi Valley, to be honest. If you take every left turn you can at the start, you'll end up on the bridge, and this is the fastest path to take on this track. One thing that's pretty funny about this track is because of all the different paths you can take, blue shells tend to get super confused on this track, and it's actually pretty likely that the blue shell will take a totally different path than the one that you're on. Other than that, make sure to release those drifts early and take those tight lines, and if you're using mushrooms, save them for the very end of the lap. Alright, just one more cup to go. Tick-Tock Clock isn't super tough if you're not trying to play optimally. Really the only notable thing about the track is that, like Music Park, just before the red and blue gear section there's going to be 2 ramps, one of which is lit up with a glider. If you want an easy time of it, take the glider, but if you trick off the other ramp you can actually trick off a bunch of ramps on the gears, which saves a lot of time. To do this most effectively, you kinda want to try and look at the gear that's in front of you instead of the gear that you're currently on so that you can try and adjust your positioning to hit those ramps. But if you do miss the ramps, it's not that big of a deal since you've got more than enough of a buffer to beat the staff coast. Oh yeah, and don't go off the gear ramps at the very end of the lap. Airtime is very slow. Piranha Plant Slide now. This is probably one of the harder courses in the retro tracks. For the two Piranha Plants, you just need to pay attention to what direction they're facing and whether or not they're moving. You can then adjust which side you need to take as needed. In general though, you want to try and stay as close to the left as possible for both of the turns where that happens. I don't really do the bit after the first Piranha Plant very well on any of the laps, but generally what I try and do is stay on the right hand path, not trick off the first pipe, and then trick off the second pipe. The reason for not going left at the split path is that it can be easy to fall off, and if that happens, it's a pretty big time loss. The only other thing to mention is that going off the glider, you're going to want to hold up on the joystick for a little bit so that you can land on the path quickly, because the last turn can be kinda tight. But that's it for this course. See you in Grumble. Grumble Volcano is another kinda tricky course. There's not a lot to specifically call out, aside from making sure to copy my lines as closely as you can. The last turn before the fireball section is mostly neutral drifting with some small left inputs on the joystick for course correction. That turn is also the spot where you're going to want to use your mushrooms if you have them. For the final ramp, try and approach it from the left side so that you can land in a drift and build up a mini turbo before finishing the lap. After that, we are moving on to the last course in the retro tracks. Alright, finishing things up with N64 Rainbow Road now. Pretty straightforward track. Literally. There's not a lot to point out except that in the places where the chain chomps are bouncing on the track, you can actually trick off the peaks of the waves that form. Other than that though, the staff ghost here shouldn't really give you too many problems. So congratulations, you've successfully conquered all of the retro track staff ghosts on 150cc. Hope you all enjoyed this video, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon for the bonus track staff ghosts.